Hi, my name is Emma, and today we're going through all of the books that I read in 2017. I think that the total number, no, for sure the total number was 41 books. I would have liked to have read more, but I'm good with 41. Okay, so how I'm gonna do this is I'm gonna show you the book, say the title, and say if I liked it or not. I'm not gonna give a lot of description about each book because that would be a very long video and I don't feel like sitting here for that long or editing for that long. So also, I don't think that this is in order completely because I started this list at the end of January, I think, and so some of the books I just like wrote down but didn't remember. The very first book that I read in 2017 was Winter by Marissa Meyer. I had read all of the other books in this series at the end of 2016, and I like this book. It was my second time reading this series, so yeah, it's good. Good book. The next book that I read is Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy by Cassandra Clare, Sarah Reese Brennan, Maureen Johnson, and Robin Wasserman. This was good. I really enjoyed this one. The next book that I read was LMNOP by Mark Dunn. This one was an interesting concept, but I didn't really enjoy it as much as I thought I would. The next book that I read was A Whole New World by Liz Braswell. I enjoyed it enough, but it wasn't my favorite. Then after that one, I read As Old as Time, which is also by Liz Braswell. This one I enjoyed a lot more. That might have to do with the fact that I love Beauty and the Beast, but I really liked this book. I thought it was so well written. Next, I read Almost Adulting by Arden Rose. I liked reading this one, but I don't think that there was actually that much to it. It wasn't what I was expecting, but I still enjoyed it because I like Arden Rose. The next book that I read is Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. I did not like this one that much. I think I liked the first one the most, but it's not the best series. Then I read A Doll's House by Henrik Ibsen. I read this for my AP Lit class last year and I didn't really enjoy it. Next, I read the entire Dorothy Must Die series by Daniel Page, which is Dorothy Must Die, The Wicked Will Rise, Yellow Brick War, and The End of Oz. I really enjoyed like the first 2 or 3 books. I can't really remember the third book, but I didn't love the 4th book. The next book that I read is Jacobee by William Ritter. I really enjoyed this book. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did, but I really liked it a lot. Next, I read A Study in Charlotte by Brittany Cavallaro. I really liked this book. It was really good because I was on a Sherlock kick, which was started by Jacobee because Jacobee is kind of Sherlocky. Next, I read Glass Sword and King's Cage by Victoria Aveyard. These 2 books I did not like a lot. They kind of moved too slow for me, but I still enjoyed the storyline well enough. Next, I read Carry On by Rainbow Rowell, and I loved this book. It was so good. I really like Rainbow Rowell's work in Carry On and Fangirl. Speaking of Fangirl, that's what I read next. And I loved it. It was my second time reading it and it was amazing. And I read it because I had read Carry On and it just reminded me of it. Next I read The Last of August by Brittany Cavallaro, which I did not love. It wasn't the worst thing I've ever read, but I definitely didn't like it, especially compared to the first book. The first book was amazing and this book just wasn't that great. Next book that I read was Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell, and I did not love this book as much as I did the first time that I read it. Next I read Everything Everything by Nicola Yoon, and I loved this book. It was a really fast read and it's not very dense or anything, but it's really good and made me very happy when I read it. Next, I read Wires and Nerves by Marissa Meyer, and I loved it. It's a continuation of my favorite characters. The next book that I read was The Statistical Probability of Love at First Sight by Jennifer E. Smith, and I enjoyed this one because it was a lot like movies that I would watch. And I really enjoyed this as a contemporary read because I was really into contemporary books at the time that I read this, but I don't think it's something that I would read again. The next book that I read is The Jewel by Amy Ewing, and it's interesting. It's kind of weird, but pretty good. Next, I read The Siren by Kiera Cass, and I loved this book. It was so good. I don't know why I couldn't get through it the first time that I read it. It was amazing. Next, I read Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin. I said Benjamin again, but I'm just gonna keep going. Benjamin Larsons. I have no idea how to say his last name. I'm so sorry. This wasn't as good as I was hoping it would be. I was really excited to read this because it's got gay characters, you know, and I was so excited about it. And it just wasn't that good, in my opinion. Next, I read To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han, and I really liked it. I really didn't expect to like it. I read it because Read by Zoe said that she really enjoyed it, but this contemporary just really good. The next book that I read was The Savage Song by Victoria Schwab, and it was kind of disappointing because I had heard so many good things about her and it just wasn't that amazing. I don't even know what it was about it, but it just didn't really, you know, click with me. Next, I read The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. This book is just incredible. I read this while I was in South Dakota with my family, and it was just so good. I cannot express how much I loved this book. I read it in like a day, and I was on vacation when I read it. So like, if that doesn't say something. Next book that I read is P.S. I Still Love You by Jenny Han, and I loved this one. It was a very good continuation of To All the Boys I've Loved Before. Yeah. Next, I read We Are Okay by Nina LaCour, and this one was very, very good. The description does not do this book justice. Next, I read Always and Forever Lara Jean by Jenny Han, and I don't think I have to say it, but I loved it, and it was very good. Next, I read Secrets for the Mad by Dodie, and it was very good. It was a really good book, and I really enjoyed it, and it gave me a few things to like think about in my own life, and I really enjoyed that. That was a really good thing to happen with a book. The next book that I read is The Princess Saves Herself in This One by Amanda Lovelace, and I didn't love this, but that is probably because I don't love poetry, especially poetry written in like this format, but like other than that it's pretty good, you know. Next, I read The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas, and this one I really, really, really enjoyed. It was so good. I put this one off for a really long time because I just was never in the mood, but I couldn't like attach myself to any books when I read this, and so I read this and it just threw me back into reading, and I'm really thankful for that. And it was such a good story, and so just it was so good. The next book that I read was Royal Bastards by Andrew Schwartz. This one was good. I really enjoyed it, but I do think that it could almost be middle grade rather than young adult, but I did really enjoy the story and am looking forward to the next one because I do think there's gonna be a next one. Next, I read Attachments by Rainbow Rowell, and I did not like this one. I'm really surprised because I really liked Rainbow Rowell's writing in Carry On and Fangirl, but I don't really like Eleanor and Park or Attachments. Just didn't like it. It was like a weird thing to like write a book about. I don't know, but didn't enjoy that one. Next, I read Looking for Alaska by John Green, and this one was good, but I didn't love it. The next book that I read was Milk and Honey by Ruby Kaur, and this is another poetry book. I didn't love it, but there were certain parts that I really loved, and I really loved the illustrations in it, because there's illustrations on like every page, I think, and they're just, I liked that, and I liked the format that it was written in. It was better. One book that I forgot to mention somewhere in there was Nimona. I really enjoyed that. It's a graphic novel, and it was very good. I don't own it because I read it at my sibling's house. They live in Minnesota, so, like, you know. And then the last book that I read in 2017 was A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. I do have that with me, but it's really big and I don't want to get it down, so I'm just not gonna bother. And that one was, you know, it's A Christmas Carol. It was kind of hard to read because it's old writing, but it was good. It was a good book. I like that story, but there's not much to say about it. And those are all of the books that I read this past year, so yeah, my foot's asleep. I gotta go and put my books back and, you know, wake up my foot. Oh my god, I feel so bad.